Well, what's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Pastor Plus podcast. My name is Chris Johnson, aka the Greatness Coach, or Bishop J, however you want, however you're feeling today. I'm just excited to be able to bring you another episode where I'm talking about or unpacking this whole concept of pastors being more than just pastors. I certainly am, and I hope that I can embody that by the conversations that we're having. And so today, my very special guest is someone who I believe embodies this whole concept. And not only are they in ministry and advancing the kingdom, but also impacting the world in various ways. And so this brother today, he is the director of student development at the St. John's University. He is the founder of Manifest Your Dreams mentoring initiative, and he's also a Gallup strength coach. And I want you all to welcome Mr. Sharod.tomlison. Brother Sharod, thank you so much, man, for being on today.
No, I appreciate the opportunity. This is great. It was great connecting with you and just, diving into this conversation about pastors being able and just kingdom citizens being able to advance more, not just in the secular realm, but also within our faith. So thank you for the opportunity.
Most definitely, man. And I think it's fair for us to just give you an opportunity to just kind of let everybody know who you are, where you're at, what it is that you're doing right now. And then we can just kind of dive into conversation from there.
Sharod Tomlinson from New York City. Been fortunate to be in higher education for the past 13 years after working on the stock exchange for about 7 or 8 years on the commodity stock exchange. So I've been in education for the past 13 years, always been passionate about leadership, community development, a lot of youth development, also coach at Christ King High School, girls basketball, also the New York Renaissance AAU program, and within all of that, wrapping up my dissertation in education. So just trying to do as much as I can while I can.
I love it, man. You're like you took my approach. I said, when I die, I'm going to die empty. There's going to be nothing left.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's funny. I heard a sermon years ago, and that's what resonated with me. Like, don't die with your potential in the grave, or and oftentimes a lot of wisdom, a lot of knowledge and potential is in the grave because they didn't get a chance to share it, or they didn't just take the opportunity to share it while they were alive. So my whole goal is to each and every day, how can I help somebody increase the quality of their life?
Wow. Let's talk about ministry a little bit. People may not know it, but you've been in ministry and serving in ministry and doing ministry for a minute.
Yeah. New York City area, fortunate to travel a little bit itinerant and preaching. But I've been in ministry since about 2006 here in New York City. About 10 of those years were in youth ministry. And throughout that time, been fortunate to connect with a lot of youth leaders across the country through a program called the DeVos Urban Leadership Initiative, started by Mr. Richard DeVos and his family down in Orlando, Florida. And so that was a 15, 16-month program that I participated in. Phenomenal, life-changing experience. And it was out of that, working in that program, talking about creating breakthrough plans and leadership burnout, right? And just focusing on other goals and initiatives that I began to understand the need to not just have impact within the kingdom and within our faith-based realm, but also how do we begin to create strategic partnerships and advance our work and impact outside of the four walls. And so for the past 15 years now, it's been, the ministry, but also the community aspect, which goes hand in hand. And my pastor, Bishop Michael Basson, said to me, 80%, 85% of the work that you do is not behind the pulpit. So that's always stuck with me, and I've done everything that I have done so far to try to make sure I fulfill that.
Man, this is, that is totally the concept of Pastor Plus. What your bishop said is that, what we are supposed to be doing is, I love it. He said 85% is outside of the pulpit. Mm-hmm. When my dad died in 2012, it was kind of the whole premise for Pastor Plus. Those last 2 years of his ministry, he didn't even want to be in ministry. He wanted to go do something else, but he couldn't because he never really engaged in anything else. What I love about what you're doing, and I believe what many pastors are coming alive to, especially with this pandemic, is that when my ministry is no longer centered around the pulpit, I have to find something else. I have to find other strategic ways. Can you talk just a few minutes about, you talked about how you've always had this ministry and community, this duality, so to speak. Isn't it what we're supposed to be doing anyway, is moving that needle, widening the net, so to speak, that ministry shouldn't just be within the church walls, but, finding opportunity outside in the community.
No, absolutely. And ministry is the community. The people we serve come from community. The voices we want to attract, and the people we want to attract to our local congregations come from the community. And so it is within that makeup that we must have these community relationships. And it's funny, this morning in my daily devotion, as I was reading, one of the things that, I've always, again, looking up stuff on community. And, community is God's desire for us. And so if you go to Acts 2nd chapter, 42 through 47, it says, so I'll go to verse 46. It says, so continuing daily with one accord in the temple and breaking bread from house to house, they ate their food with gladness and simplicity of the heart. But verse 47 says, praising God and having favor with all people, and the Lord added to the church daily those who were being saved, right? And so in order to be able to reach the community, one, we've got to learn how to break bread. And then part of breaking bread is fellowship, not tolerance.
Wow.
And so we oftentimes within church have done a great job of churching and tolerance of one another, and not fellowshipping where we understand who we are, who you're sitting next to in church, what's your personality type, what's your leadership style, just what's your story. And so it's not that people don't trust, people don't know. And as leaders, as kingdom citizens, it's important for us to have more meaningful conversations. And I often ask people, have you had a real conversation this week? And because often what we do a lot of times is, hey, how are you? How are you? And nobody has answered the how are you. We've done this. And we've never stopped to engage here. So we've had this conversation, and we've never stopped to really have a dialogue. And I think what this, even within this pandemic, has done is give us the opportunity and space to pause to have some real dialogues, maybe with people who are new. For instance, our connection is new, but maybe some old connections, right, of people who we haven't spoken to in a while, and just be able to reconnect with people. And so as believers, it's more than the tithe. It's more than the offering. It's more than those things. It's more than showing up on Tuesday night or Wednesday night for Bible study and Sunday morning. But even within those moments, how do we create cultures where it's not just one voice, right? But voices connecting together. The one voice, yes, is God. But we don't assemble for the sake of the voice of us, just one of our voices to be heard. But I think the real connection to the church and the community is sitting down and having dialogues to understand the journeys of others.
You said three key words in there, and just forgive me. I'm a preacher. It's easy for me to pick
No,
these
no, no,
out.
you good.
You said community, you said conversations, and you said culture. And I believe these are very vitally important. Something I talk about all the time at our church, in our ministry, is I'm, kind of engaging our leaders and just talking to them about being intentional about having conversations with people. People stay where they feel honor. And if we're honoring people by listening and conversating and communicating, and then what I've seen in the pandemic is people are really, really attracted to the sense of community. People want to belong.
Yeah.
And then this whole culture of love, a culture of inclusiveness. I think those things is what makes us unique as the church. As the kingdom, as the body of Christ, is we can embody all three of those things. Can you talk about some times where, as you're doing what you're doing, sometimes where you think that these two concepts or these three concepts, as you're going out into circles that's not necessarily church related, where they can be beneficial? Like if pastors would really think, and ministry leaders would really think about, like, even when I go to work, how can I take some of these concepts of conversation, community, and culture and make that person in their cubicle feel a part of,
Absolutely. And I think it starts with love.
Mm,
I think that's where it starts. It starts with love. It starts with, because it has to start with love,
yeah.
because therefore it allows you to be unbiased and non-judgmental in your interactions.
Mm,
One thing as a people, whether it's leaders, and especially for leaders, and I was having this conversation with actually some other leaders the other night, we have to stop having transactional relationships
come on now.
where we only engage from the standpoint of a engagement
Mm,
or a financial exchange.
wow. Wow.
Once we understand how to have meaningful relationships, we can then have more meaningful collaborations.
Mm,
And I think the key to what we do has to be from a collaborative standpoint. But
mm,
it's also important for us who are part of this kingdom to understand that people want to be encouraged. People want to be supported. People want to feel a part. They want to feel welcomed. But also, one of the greatest things, and the reason why I went to college in Minnesota, the reason why I still go back to Minnesota and do work there, is because of people. It is
mm,
because of our impact in working with ministries there to be able to impact the community. Throughout this pandemic, we've seen the social justice issues.
yeah,
We
man.
as the church have to be on the front line, but you must be educated in your approach on how you handle community affairs. One thing that I find with some ministries is they're not even aware of the resources that are in their backyard.
Wow.
And so, as leaders, you don't just need people to sit in the pulpit on Sunday
Mm,
to show that you have a big staff. You need to be able to assign people to their strengths or expose people to new avenues that therefore they can do work in within that local assembly, that therefore we can grow the whole church. The weight
wow.
of the success of a ministry is not just the responsibility of the pastor, but pastors have to be trusting enough
Come on.
and not insecure to allow others that surround them to be able to operate in their gifts to be able to flourish. And so one of the things I often talk about, whether it's corporate, whether it's within education, whether it's in faith-based sector, who's on your team and why are they there?
Mm, mm,
Who's on your team and why are they there? And then after you answer that question, my next question is, what do they bring to the table? What are their strengths? What are the weaknesses of your team? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Because what is your leadership style? Because it's not that, and oftentimes we hear we got to cut people off. And I was just having, this has been a conversation I feel like I've been having all week about this topic. How do we have kingdom if we constantly cutting people off?
Come on now. Come on now.
Put this, put the scissors down, right? Stop rebuking people. Stop throwing your holy oil and the blood all over people, because all you've done is made a mess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Learn how to and it goes back to conversation. If we can have conversation,
Mm-hmm.
if we understand who's around us, then what we do is we understand our different personality types, and we then begin to respect what everyone brings to the table. But as long as we refuse to engage in that, we never get to that place of solution.
Wow. Man, you know, I don't know what it is, man. I've been sitting here taking notes. And I don't know if you intentionally are doing it, but you're throwing out a lot of C words. So I'm gonna keep rolling with it. You talked about collaboration, and not only do we have community culture conversation, but you talked about collaboration, and I think that's one of the things that we see so absent in many church cultures and many church communities is the collaborative efforts of the pastors and ministry leaders. So, you know, one of my good friends here locally, Pastor Jerry Marable, always talks about us co-laboring without competition. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's where we need to kind of move toward is this collaborative effort of, like you just said, developing leaders that go out into the community, that we play to their strengths. And that's something that I'm sure that you're doing not only in church or in the community, but I'm looking at some of the things you're doing with young men and women. So you have founded an initiative, a mentoring initiative called Manifest Your Dreams. Let's talk about that a little bit. What is the driving force of Manifest Your Dreams?
Manifest your dream is it started from my own experiences. As a young kid, everybody gets on punishment, and so uh, my parents like, hey, you can't watch TV. So I was like, hey, if I can, I watch TV, but I watch the news. So anyone who knows me knows I will watch CNN and ESPN on repeat. Right, I will watch that all day. But in part of at that point, I was watching the Business Channel, and I fell in love with the ticker at the bottom. And I said, hey, I want to work. I was in seventh grade, and I said I would love to learn more about that arena and work in business. I went to college. My freshman year, I studied business until I had to transfer. My sophomore year, I transferred from a school, and then ultimately shifted my degree, but didn't shift with my career. I ended up working on the stock exchange, so that was a dream. Even working in education, my first job in higher education, I said, man, I would love to work for my mentor, who was the dean of students at the time. I ended up doing it. So there's a lot of stuff in my own life as I sat down with a friend of mine, and I realized when I was just talking through it, and I said, yo, I've been able to manifest my dreams. And what
Wow.
I realized is there are many people who work where they work, either out of necessity
Mm,
or out of purpose and passion.
mm.
But even those who are working in a place out of necessity because of life circumstances, they've got a purpose and passion that they still want to fulfill. But oftentimes they don't have the shadowing or the opportunity or access to get to that place to fulfill that purpose and passion
Mm.
because they're just 9 to 5 in it, right? And I get it. Life throws us some curveballs.
Yeah.
But when life throws you curveballs, a lot of times you work in that career and you don't want to give up that time on that in that career to go pursue something different. And so
Wow.
what I've been able to, or my hope with Manifest Your Dream is even within your 9 to 5, show people how you can still begin to venture into your purpose and passion. Because many of us punch clocks,
Mm.
but even within punching the clock, are you getting fulfilled in the work that you're doing?
My God.
So you may be an administrative assistant, but you may also have a passion for community.
Mm-hmm.
How can you your career where you work in may not have a community initiative? How can you expose your job to this community engagement initiative that then will give you fulfillment in what you want to do, but yet raise the level of the company that you're working in.
Mm,
And for
that's good.
me, manifest your dream is about that. Manifest your dream is all about how do I help others increase the quality of their life. And so there's some different components of manifest your dream where I work with people on personal development, leadership development, and then talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. There's a track for that. Team managers and executive leadership development. Because although you're the leader, who's coaching the leader?
Mm,
Who mentors the mentor? Who coaches the coach? Who coaches the pastor?
yeah.
And so you may be the great voice in your city. You may be the voice of the house, but every leader needs a leader. Every leader needs an accountability partner.
Yes.
Every manager needs to be able to see the blind spots within their organization. Because in my interactions with organizations, what often happens is leaders will say, yeah, everybody knows the vision of the house. Everyone knows the vision of the organization, the vision, mission, and purpose. But then when you ask the people on the ground, there's a disconnect in what the leaders perceive versus what is the reality of those who are doing the work.
Mm,
And even those who are within the organization, are they do they have the tools? Do they have the resources to do their best job every day?
wow. Wow.
And so I take all of these different workshops and components, and what throughout the process, we every participant is also works on a breakthrough plan. And for me, this is something I adopted from the DeVos initiative,
Uh-huh.
and then also being a Gallup certified strengths coach, I've tied in that assessment. The Gallup assessment is one that is amazing, right? Don Clifton talks about neuroplasticity and the development of our brains.
Mm,
And oftentimes people think, hey, I stopped growing, I stopped learning at a certain age. You stop learning when you choose to stop learning.
wow.
And as long as you are invested and developed in yourself, then you will continue to grow. And so for Manifest Your Dream, my model is this. You have been a, a expert in your
Mm-hmm.
deficiencies. Now, how do you become a professional in your strengths?
Man, that's good.
Because the world's told you what's wrong, always wants to tell you what's wrong with you, from your K through 12 experience to your professional experience. There's parents teachers conference to tell you what you're not doing right. When you get to your adult life, then there's a performance evaluation to tell you what you're not doing right. How many of those conversations are strengths based?
Wow. Wow.
And the goal of this program is to help individuals, leaders, organizational cultures to develop a strengths based culture in language and in action.
In language and in action. I love what you said. Who's coaching the coach? Who's leading the leader? It's Dr. R.E. Vernon who said this. Don't tell me who you're over until you can tell me who you're under.
Absolutely.
Coach Michael Burt says everybody, absolutely everybody needs a coach in life.
Need a coach.
And I'm really a huge believer in that. I think that at every stage of our lives, we need to be mentored and coached through something, right?
Yes.
If you're married, you need a marriage coach. If you're single, you need someone coaching you on your life. Tonight, I'm coaching a group of singles tonight, just coaching them about what you talked about, purpose and passion. Who are you? Why are you here? What has God called you to do? Then what are you gifted to do? What are you skilled to do? What can you expose yourself to? Those are things, as I'm looking at, especially what the pandemic has revealed, is people have lost a connection or never discovered purpose. And so, man, I think it's such a phenomenal work that you're doing, coaching, mentoring, and you're mentoring young men and women, right? All across your
Yes,
platforms.
young men and women. It's open to all ages. You know what I mean? Even I
Oh,
have the session I've been doing has been I have a youth component, but I also have stuff for adults. And Everyone needs a coach. It doesn't matter your age, doesn't matter your professional experience, it doesn't matter what your leadership, how in depth you are in leadership development. Everyone can use some level of help and assistance to reach their goals, which they're trying to fulfill. And I think it's really important for us to be open to that,
Yeah.
right? Be
Yeah.
open to learning more, be open to growing, be open to your own development. We invest in so much, but how much do we invest in ourselves?
Mm.
Because you're a brand. You are a brand. And so, as you look at it, at the end of the day, what does your name represent? When people
Wow.
hear your name, what goes with it? And I think that's an important thing because we want our kids to make good decisions. We want our kids to make great decisions about their development.
Yeah.
But oftentimes, even as adults, right? When people hear your name, what's attached to it?
Wow.
And I'm not talking about being messy. I'm not talking about that stuff. There's always somebody who's gonna have something negative to say,
Right. Right.
right? But how do we empower other people? How do we develop other people? We spend too much time talking about who don't like us and who are haters and all that type of stuff. We're too old for that. We've been around this block too long. And we have to now start having more positive, engaging conversations
Yeah, man.
that get us to the winner's circle.
That's wasted energy, man. Talking about who doesn't like you, how many haters you have. You know, I always cringe when I hear people talk about all the haters. Listen,
Yeah.
who cares? I mean, they're doing what they're supposed to do anyway. I mean, move on, focus on what it is you're supposed to be doing, man. I am thrilled that we were able to cross paths and we were able to connect from the time we talked our first time, and that just goes to show you how God works. You know, we talked the first time. You didn't know me, I didn't know you. We just kind of, our paths kind of crossed, and it goes back to what you were saying, having the right conversations, just having conversations with people, and found out that we're kind of interested in some of the same things. We speak some of the same language. And so, man, I am grateful to have met you, and I can't wait to see what our future relationship will manifest. How do we contact you? How can people connect with you? Because I know there are some people who may want to be mentored and coached. So can you give us all of your information?
Yeah, on Facebook, it is Sharod Tomlinson, Sharod Tomlinson, Tomlinson. I'm also on Instagram at _manifest your dream. And then my personal Instagram is Sharod_T. But if anything, if you're just an email person, just email me Sharod, SHAROD.Tomlinson, TOMLINSON @yahoo.com. And I look forward to work with you. Brother, this was a great conversation. I appreciate the platform. And again, it's about having conversations, right? Becoming uncomfortable and being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Right? Because through all our successes, there's some failures.
Yeah.
Through all our, appearances on social media, right? We show the glare. We don't show the dark spots.
Wow.
And so what I also say to people is this: don't be fooled by social media. There's a real life behind social media. Because even on your greatest post, and I challenge all of you to do this, go back to your post where you had the most likes. Only 10% of your followers tapped into it.
Wow. Only 10%.
Only 10% of your followers liked that post.
Wow. Wow.
They may viewed it. There's many who have viewed it, but it's only about 10. Maybe I give you 15% who liked it.
So why seek the approval of others?
Why? Why be worried? Why be worried?
Listen, man.
Stay in today. Tomorrow's got its own troubles.
Man, I'm definitely going to let you have our final thought of the day. But before we do that, I want to remind everybody, especially the ministry leaders and the pastors listening, the influencers that are listening, that on June 24th and 25th, I'm having a 2-day camp entitled Pastor Plus. In that camp, if you're hearing me, pastors and ministry leaders and influencer, listen, you don't have to be a senior pastor. You can come in. We're talking about you being able to get your message out, to strategize about how to structure your content, to build your online presence. Man, we're going to have a professional video shoot. We're going to have a professional photo shoot. We're going to show you how to set up all of your social media accounts. The point is, if we've learned anything over the past year, we've got to find other ways. And what we want to do is expose you to other ways of, like you just said, building your brand, getting the word out, telling everybody about Jesus, being involved in your community, that you're not just the pastor, but you're the pastor plus. And we want to take 2 days. It's a retreat style. Just sit you down and tell you about how to do that. Go to my website, cajohnson.org, for more information. Brother Sharod, if you could give us our closing statement here, whatever you want to say to everybody. I don't care if you want to pray or whatever you want to do. I always like for whoever I'm in conversation with to kind of close us out. And so that'll be our final thought for today. It's on you.
Thank you. And again, thank you for the opportunity. My word as we close out today is you are your own MVP. Live out your mission, live out your vision, and understand your purpose. And so my prayer for you today is that you tap into those skill sets that lie dormant within you. I pray that God continues to give you strategic relationships, strategic partnerships, that you can fulfill your life's purpose and be your best self. Pastor, thank you so much for this opportunity. I pray that nothing but blessings are upon your life and your family. Continue to succeed and prosper in all that you do. I wish you the best, and we will definitely stay connected. Continue to do this great work. Thank you.
God bless.